Hey, if you don't happen to know who I am, my name is Reese Liker and I am the owner and founder of Divine. And today we're going to be learning a more advanced eyeshadow technique. So if you're like, Reese, I need a good formal look, I need something for, a night out on the town, I need something for a gala, however you say it, this is definitely the look that you are going to want to go for with our browns palette. So first things first, I do have eyeshadow primer on already. If you have not heard about eyeshadow primer, I highly recommend that you go check out our eyeshadow primer tutorial. This makes a huge difference when it comes to your eyeshadow looking amazing and lasting throughout the day. Mine looks the same when I put it on in the morning to when I take it off at night. There's no creasing, I don't lose a lot of pigmentation in my colors, etc. You get it, it's a game changer. Once you have it, you can't go back because it really does make that much of a difference. So eyeshadow primer is on. I applied that with our dual camouflage stamper brush. Let me see if I have it so I can show you guys. I do have it. So dual camouflage stamper brush is this one. Mine's well loved, kind of needs washed, but you're looking for that more waxy coating on the brush. So apply eyeshadow primer with the dual camouflage stamper brush before you do eyeshadow, and we are ready to go. The first palette you're going to want to reach for though is our Essentials palette. And the first brush we're going to use is the Fluffy Crease brush. So go ahead and load your Fluffy Crease brush up with that matte white shade. And we are going to pat press this from the start of our brow all the way up to the arch. This is going to prevent any dark colors that we use later from traveling up there, since this color is the first thing to hit the primer. Because we don't want to have panda eyes, raccoon eyes, whatever you call them. Essentially, we just don't want your eyeshadow to get out of hand, because that does happen with darker colors. Now we can actually switch palettes. I dropped my eyeliner, so hopefully I can grab that. But we're going to switch into the browns palette, and taking your Fluffy Crease, go ahead and swipe it on a towel. Make sure that your bristles are clean-ish, just gets off that last color that we used. We're gonna load up that shimmery white, tap off any excess, and I love how potent this white is. This captures so beautifully in photos and on camera. It's one of my favorites when I do bridal or senior portrait looks, because it is just that potent. Super, super pretty. So yeah, in the inner corner and underneath the tail of your brow. So pat pressing from the arch down the tail. And we're going to place that in the inner corner as well. And notice I'm only stamping it in the area that's as wide as this brush. I'm not going any further out. So go ahead and swipe your brush again. We're going to move to our next color, and that's going to be the matte peach inside of the browns palette. Load that up. We're going to feel for our brow bone. We're going to go slightly on top of / slightly underneath it. Pat press the first 50% of the way, and then you're going to blend down towards the inner corner for the rest of that 50%. Same thing on the other side. Feel for the brow bone. Pat press, and we're going to blend down towards the inner corner of our eye. So pat press, and blend down. Perfect. We are actually going to switch brushes next. I like saying the word next apparently, but we're going to switch to the Precision Crease brush. So this is our, I think, tiniest brush actually in the Define line. So it's got a very skinny top, very precise. That's why it's called the Precision Crease brush. So this I'm going to swipe on a towel because I don't remember what eyeshadow I used on it last, but we're going to grab this matte rust shade. Go ahead and load that up on the Precision Crease brush, and essentially with this motion we're going to create what I would call a double transition color. So we're going to go just right on top of our eyelid, but it's going to overlap a little bit of that transition color that we just placed. Back up, I don't know that we blended our transition color. I applied it so light that I'm like, it looks okay, but let's blend before we get into that. So back it up, rewind. We're going to take the Fluffy Crease and blend that really quickly. So just back and forth motions on top of that peach color to blend it into our highlight shade. You can tell I'm really excited about this look because I'm like, I just want to get to the next color because it's so pretty. But definitely make sure you blend that. Tiny back and forth motions, super duper light pressure. Again, the more pressure you use, the more pigment you'll lose. We've been saying this throughout our tutorials, so that you remember, do not use very heavy pressure when we're blending. Make sure that looks good. Perfect. You should see no harsh lines after you have blended out your eyeshadow, by the way. All right, so Precision Crease brush, loading up that rust again, and now we're ready to do our double transition color. So this we're going to pat press just above the actual eyelid space. So essentially I'm just creating a line above my actual like lid, and you're gonna see it pretty quickly here. But we're gonna pat press this for about 75% of the way over. And I'm following the curvature of my eye downwards as well. That's pretty important to note. So we're just going right on top of that eyelid, pat pressing the first 75% of the way, and bringing that down close to the inner corner, but not quite hitting it. So now you can see it almost looks like a little rainbow or an arch, and we're going to blend that. So we're done with the precision crease brush for now. We're gonna switch back to the fluffy crease brush, swipe that on a towel, and we are going to blend. So going right on top of that color, again, very gentle back and forth motions, not using a lot of pressure. We're gonna blend that into our transition shade. And again, you can see the difference in blended versus not blended. So be sure that we are blending. Don't make the mistake that I almost made and not blend. Be sure that everything is soft and diffused, no harsh lines. Just gently going back and forth with that. And it looks good to me. All right, the next color we're gonna go in with is our matte brown on the browns palette. This is the second option for an intensifier, I should say, because both of these are going to qualify as intensifier shades. However, I like using the matte brown. And honestly, this one can swing a little bit purple if you put it in your cool tones too. So we'll see if it almost pulls a little bit of a purple tone on me today, because I am wearing more cool colors and I am technically more in the cool color scheme. All right, I am just patting my eyeshadow primer to make sure there's no creasing. And we are going to apply this to the entire rest of the eyelid space. So pat, press, making sure we're really getting that to lock in here. And we're only taking up the actual space on your eyelid where your eye kind of is, you know. I don't know how to describe that. I'm sure there's a technical term, but it is not coming to mind right now. So we're just gonna pat, press. Yeah, that's such a pretty color. Absolutely love it. Pat, press. Making sure you're really getting that color to lock into the eyeshadow primer. You can invert your brush to get close to the lash line too. So just flipping it upside down, really making sure you get it to stick is the key. All right, now I have it applied and we're ready to blend. So fluffy crease, swipe it on the top, and we're going to just gently blend back and forth on the top. Where it meets that rust shade, we're using super duper light pressure because I don't want to lose where that rust kind of sits, if that makes sense. I don't want you to be like, oh, where'd the rust shade go? Can't find it. So back and forth, very gentle motions to blend that into the rust shade. Okay, and again, if you lost any pigment or you feel like it looks uneven, you can grab a little bit more and pack press it on the core of that color. So not where we blended on the outer edges, but just where that color lies in the middle. Because I like to have my eyeshadow a little bit more intense when I do this particular look. So that's where I like to go back and kind of intensify it. Now we're ready to do a halo. So if you don't remember a halo, I recommend watching our last tutorial in this 5-day series, which was with our tans palette. We introduced a halo, but we're going to apply that technique to this look. So taking your fluffy crease brush, we're gonna load up our intensifier. You have two options. You can do the matte brown or the shimmery brown. I prefer the matte. Since I used it right here, I'm going to tap off any excess, and we are going to apply this to the outer about 25 to 40% of our eye. It depends on how intense you want it. If you want it to be very, not like super light, but if you want it to be more light, that's where I'd go only about 25% of the way in with a pat pressing motion. If you want it to be more intense in your eye to be even more rounded, that's where you can go closer to that 40% of the way in. So it depends on the look that you want, but I'm probably gonna go about halfway between those two numbers and go for like a 30 to 35% of the way over. So I'm just gently pat pressing with my brush here to get that placed. Same thing over here. And you can see the difference in my eyes. This one looks more round and looks a little bit larger versus this one, which looks, you know, normal. It looks like my exact eye shape. So now I'm gonna pat press, over here. And then I'm going to blend or smoke it out. So taking the fluffy crease brush, swipe it on the top. We're going to use gentle back and forth motions to blend. And you're actually going to essentially blend it towards the inner corner to get it to be more diffused over there. So blending out that bottom line. And then as you're blending, kind of working it over a little bit, you're not going to see this distinct line of like, oh, okay, that's where the brown is and that's where there isn't anything. But essentially, like I said, it's going to be really soft and really diffused. All right. Now we have that blended out. I absolutely love how that looks. It does make my eyes appear more round. I don't know the technical term for my eye shape. That's something we can totally cover at a different date. But that is where we have now our eyeshadow placed and our halo. Now we are going to go into tight lining. So let me see. Oh, perfect. My eyeliner did not fall too far earlier on in the tutorial. But we have our black mechanical eyeliner pencil. I was like, there's so many words you can use to describe this. And it is waterproof. So I'm going to take that and teach you guys how to tight line. Now this is something at first when you're learning how to do it, your eyes are probably going to be more sensitive because they're not used to having something so close to the waterline. The nice thing about this though is it is EU approved, so it's very clean when you're putting it next to your eye. And I don't do this every day. I really just do this more with intense looks. So where is this going to be placed? I do not want this touching your skin. Please know that. So we're not actually putting it on the skin on our eyelid, and we are not putting it on the skin on our under eye. We are actually going to go on the waterline. So I apologize if you get freaked out by like, I don't know, seeing my under eye. Maybe don't watch this, or like my waterline, but I want to show you guys where it gets placed. So if I lift up my lashes, I'm going to see my waterline. That is essentially along the base of my lashes on the inside of my eyelid. So the best technique I can tell you to do is look straight at first. And then if I'm doing my right eye, I'm going to look to the left because that's going to open up the space on my right eye. When I'm working on my left eye, I'm going to look to the right because that's going to open up that space. So I'm going to look to the left first because I'm doing my right eye, and I angle my eyes up so it opens up that space. But I want you to scribble the eyeliner back and forth on the base of your lashes. And again, when you're first doing this, your eyelids aren't going to be used to it, so give yourself some blink breaks. Otherwise, your eyeliner is probably going to get onto your eyeshadow. And that gets a little difficult to clean up. So back and forth, scribbling along the roots of your lashes. I was like, that's a better term, roots of your lashes, maybe not base. So, and I probably only go about 75% of the way in, because if I try to go all the way in, that can cause some irritation for my eyes, and I don't want to make them all watery and then lose a lot of what I've been working on with eyeshadow. Same thing on this eye. I'm going to look to the right side now because I'm working on the left, and I'm looking slightly up to really open up that lid space. And you can see I'm actually using my pinky to stabilize this. So if you happen to be a little bit more shaky or you're a little bit more nervous, that's where I use my pinky to stabilize it on my face using super light pressure. And then I can just move it with my fingers so that it's not going crazy. And that is tight lining on the top waterline. Essentially, this is going to make your lashes look thicker. And then if you do happen to wear false lashes on top of this, it's going to make it blend a lot better and you're not going to see as much of a gap. Now let's go ahead and do the bottom waterline. This one I don't do all the time. I really only do it if I want to now make my eyes appear smaller or more intense, and you're going to see why in a minute. So I'm going to do this eye first. I'm going to look down now because I'm working on my bottom waterline. So essentially we're just scribbling on the roots of those lashes, going back and forth, back and forth. I don't want to scribble on my contact. That is not a good idea, so don't do that. Definitely just get your waterline there. And you can see the difference in my eyes now. This one now appears smaller and a little bit more intense versus this one, which looks more open and awake. So that's the difference between tight lining and not tight lining on that bottom waterline. And honestly, for my ladies who are more mature in their years, I don't really do the bottom tight lining anymore. That's where you can just keep it to the top. Like I said, this is going to make your eyes appear smaller and a little bit sharper. So unless you want to make your eyes smaller, if you have big eyes and you want to make them tinier, that's where I would do the bottom, or if you want to intensify the look. There is one trick that you can do if you want it to be a little bit more blended, and you can actually take your precision crease brush just on the bottom waterline and kind of go back and forth on top of that. And that's going to kind of help smoke it out just a little bit more. And if there's any gaps, this usually makes them go away. So I'm really just scribbling on the roots of my lashes, or pretty close to my lash line itself. All right, and that is our eyeshadow look. So all I have to do from here is add mascara, but this is that more intense look with our browns palette. So now you know basic eyeshadow, you know a little bit more of an everyday look, and you know a more formal look. You've also learned how to do a halo, and we've learned tight lining as well. So you should have all the basics you need to know for eyeshadow applications, and of course, we'll constantly come out with new tutorials so you can learn how to use all of our different palettes. But thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next tutorial.